Fango. Today we are joined by the stars of the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We've got Sarah Yarkin and Elsie Fisher. Yay! Thanks for coming to hang out, guys.
Thank you for having us.
My freaking pleasure, dude.
Oh, freaking pleasure. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Leatherface is back, and you two are going up against him. Tell us a little bit about your characters.
Um, can I go? Should I start this one?
You shall.
Okay. I was like, I know the answer to this.
You're Vicky.
I know the answer. Okay, so I play Melody, and Melody's this like cool young entrepreneur in Austin, and she brings her sister Lila to this small ghost town that she's hoping to revitalize and make it like the cool new hit place, like the next Joshua Tree or something. And unwittingly awakens Leatherface.
That old guy. You know that guy.
We don't
Silly.
like him.
Yeah.
No bueno.
No bueno indeed. Yeah, and I play Lila, the aforementioned younger sister. And Lila is already a survivor of trauma, which was, very interesting to tackle through the lens of a horror film. Yeah, and she's kind of, despite having dealt with trauma, she's just a little shithead kid. And that's awesome.
Hey, she was kind of nice.
Hey, that's your sister I'm talking about.
I love her.
But you know what I mean? It's a little sister. You think you can be great, but they're still kind of little shits. I'm saying
exactly.
this as a big sister. Little sisters are kind of shits, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. So
As a little
no.
sister not loving this.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I cut too deep with that one. I'm sorry. I'm biased because I'm a big sister, okay?
Totally cool. It's all good.
Love the shit out of my little sister, but is she a little shit? Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. It's what you do. It's part of it. It's the charm.
Bada bing, bada boom. You know?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I tend to do that kind of thing, you know?
Well, this interview is over. I have nothing left to say. You've said it all. Bye. So, is it kind of fun getting to bring a little shit element to the character then? I imagine that's kind of fun to play around with.
Oh, I loved it because, I think Lila would, it's very easy to make a character like that be just kind of like, quiet and emo and like whatever. And it's like, there's a little bit of that, but there's also like, she's a real person to me. And like, she has a sister and she's kind of miserable right now in this town she doesn't want to be in. So I think a lot of people deflect with comedy and
yeah, it's relatable though. She's a teenager. What teenager wants to pick up and move 2 hours away from their friends? Like, you might as well be across the world. Like
exactly. So yeah.
So Sarah, your little sister playing a big sister, what is that like?
I think it's kind of cool. I always wanted a little sister or a little brother to like dress up.
Oh,
I didn't dress Elsie up.
I was like, hold on, is there behind the scenes?
You tried. You tried.
I got a little baby dress.
Like,
No, it was cool. It was cool. I don't know. I was like, Elsie, like, you're my little sister. Like, come hang out with me. I felt kind of like the old person being like, but I'm still cool. Like, I promise I'm fun.
You're so cool.
And Elsie was like teaching us like Twitter lingo and or TikTok, whatever. And we were all like, oh, God, this is showing our age. Like, poggers. I'm still like Googling what that means. Like,
poggers? I don't know. I know pogs, like you would do like the slammers and stuff. It's not the same thing, is it?
That. I know.
Okay. Well, now I'm showing my age.
Oh, come on. I think pogs are making a comeback personally. I have an extensive collection.
Okay,
so.
See, I wouldn't be surprised. See, I'm like cool again. Like, it'll come back around. I'm like, I just hold on to this shit so long, it's like cool again.
Just get ready for Beanie Babies to make their comeback.
Oh, got my collection ready. Got that box ready to go. Oh my God. Awesome. I'm having too much fun with you guys. Sorry.
You're like, what?
Stop it.
Sorry.
Stop it. We got work to do.
So this movie tackles a lot of different themes, which I thought was really cool. But because of that, I wasn't always entirely sure necessarily who I wanted to root for, which makes it really fun in a slasher kind of setting. Although I will say I did always root for the two of you. So well done on getting me on your side. Yeah. I saw that eyebrow go up. You were like, 2 strikes.
Okay, so
You better be rooting for us.
I was rooting for you. I was rooting for you. I promised
Yeah.
the entire time.
Totally.
But it does make it fun when
Yeah.
you have different kind of themes layered in there, and then you have multiple characters that have PTSD and are then thrown into this horribly traumatic, awful situation, which is kind of a cool dynamic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just, brings so many layers to it though, like having many different parties involved. Because I think it's usually, it's like there's the good guys and there's the monster, and it's like "Arr." So it's a lot more fun to have like a bunch of different dynamics. And it makes it sometimes a little bit more sad, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because when we were shooting and I'm so in it, I'm not really able to see the other side, if that makes sense. Like I'm right. Like I'm doing, obviously I wasn't thinking like we're shitty millennials who are not respecting the past of this place or X, Y, or Z. When I was in it, I was like, she doesn't own this house. Like I'm right. And it's funny watching it and like talking about it later and hearing reactions from other people. And I'm like, oh yeah, my character, she kind of sucks. So it was being so close to it that I couldn't really see both sides, because I think having to do the role, like, yeah.
You have to kind of be in that mindset.
Yeah, that's actually very good though, because now it's true. It's true because she's not even necessarily a bad person. It's just like sometimes people get so caught up in what they're doing. So
it's hard to see perspective, and I think that was kind of a cool aspect of it, because that's realistic. Like when you're like firmly believing in something and you're like, no, this is it. Like that's it, and you just have tunnel vision, and then you take yourself out of that and it's like, oh shit, I didn't mean to be shitty, but maybe I wasn't totally right, Yeah,
and people being like, yeah, I love these millennials dying. And I'm like, oh yeah, same. Like
yeah, guys, come on.
I love that you equated it to the new Joshua Tree, though, because I grew up in the desert. So my grandfather lived in Joshua Tree forever. So I grew up going there, and now I go and I'm like, oh, it's like quite different.
So, I mean, my friends just sent me some Airbnbs. We might go soon. And it's like the amount for I'm like, I would start a ghost town too. Like, let's friggin' do that.
Yeah, seriously.
Charge $800 a night. Yeah, sign me up.
I'm like, damn it, I should have just bought all kinds of property out there. Just buy acres and acres of land.
100%.
Hindsight 2020.
Right? What was the most fun part of making this for you guys? I feel like there's so many elements with like effects and like you get to be very physical and things.
Yeah, I mean, the fake blood was a lot, but I do think the stunts in general were very fun. We had some really excellent stunt people working with us, and I think David was really great about it. And it was a lot of fun to like roll around and shoot fake guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of obviously running from Leatherface. So that was me running, hiding, blood, and screaming. But what was my favorite part probably was they added this like a kind of action scene where we got to do stunts, Elsie and I, and like be in control for a minute. And without any spoilers, but feeling like I was like a little like action hero for a sec was really sick, and getting to work with the stunt coordinator and the stunt doubles and like do some of the stunts. That was the sickest couple days.
That has to be so badass. Like for me, I'd be like, I don't even act, but I just would love to do a scene like that. Like put me in as an extra and let me get slaughtered or run away or something. So fun.
Yeah. It's very good.
Very cool. Any last parting words you would like to share with us before we go?
That's what they say. You know what they say.
What do they say?
Yeah, what is it? What is it that they're always saying?
I don't know. You guys know.
Oh, that was, do you know what they say? And we're like, no, we don't. We don't know what they say. Tell us.
Guys,
the mysteries of the universe.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really great note to leave off on.
I think
I will say, I hope people who like the genre like this, and that it accomplishes what people hope it to.
I think it's a lot of fun. And it was really fun, like you said, being like, yeah, get those millennials. It's fun to watch, you know what I mean? And like this morbid kind of like, yeah, and like the kills are really fun in this. Like there's very over the top, really insanely fun kills where you're just like screaming and like cheering at the screen.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. But I was rooting for you both the whole time. I just want to make that clear and reiterate that part. I was on your side. On your side the entire time.
All right. Good. Very good. Very good.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you guys so much. Also, unrelated, I just have to throw this in there, Elsie. I still quote with my nephew, like, it's so fluffy. We still do it all the
Oh,
time.
it's so funny.
You're like, this interview is over. Get this girl out of
Like,
here.
oh, come on, guys.
We're joined by David Blue Garcia, director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yay! Thank you for coming to chat with us today.
Of course, pleasure.
So, Leatherface is back. Did you have any kind of like anxieties, I guess, or concerns about like reviving this franchise or revisiting this franchise?
Well, I'm a native Texan. I grew up in Texas, knowing the legacy of this film, not only as a Texas film, but also as a film that everyone in the world knows.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little bit of anxiety when I was signed on to do this project, but I had to do it. And my first film is literally called Tejano, which means Texan in Spanish. So I'm the guy.
You are the guy.
Yeah. Also, I'm like, I think I'm the third Texan and the first Texan in a very long time to direct one of these movies. So it's about time. It's been a lot of foreigners.
Yeah, bring it back to the Texans, right?
Yeah.
So an interesting thing is you're a Texan doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you guys shot in Bulgaria. What was that like?
Well, Bulgaria is kind of like the Texas of Eastern Europe, I found. So
That's what they say on their T-shirts too, right? Well,
is that what they say? Yeah, I think that's their tourist campaign slogan. Yeah, getting off the plane, once they drove me out to the country, they have big skies out there. They have lots of rural landscapes, which is full, that's what Texas is full of. And so it was all about just using my experience growing up and living in Texas and just kind of framing Bulgaria correctly. And to me, it did pass fairly easily as West Texas. I felt like I was out near the Fort Davis Mountains or something like that while I was filming. And then the film starts really big landscapes, big sky, and then it starts to squeeze, so we get smaller and smaller and smaller as we get into the town, the orphanage, the crawl space, the bus, you know what I mean? So things start to get more and more small.
it's become narrower and narrower and narrower.
Very claustrophobic, yes.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
a Fede Alvarez movie.
Yes, kind of something similar to that, yeah.
That's it. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre did a very similar thing. So we're paying homage to that. So
very nice. There are many homages in this, and I loved it. Like, as such a fan of the original, it was nice to see these little kind of like tidbits here and there. And I feel like it has the spirit of it. Like, I can tell that you're a Texan and you're a fan. You're not just like a dude who was like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll make this one,
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a fan, I think, to make a movie. I think you have to be a fan of the material, a fan of the subject. You have to love it. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So I fell in love with the movie and the franchise, and I made it.
You gotta feel it in your soul, and then you can tell that on the screen. Absolutely. Yeah. So I feel like when I think of Bulgaria, like, that's not what I think of, is what I was seeing on the screen. I've never been there, so I imagine it must be weird to like come from Texas, get off the plane, you go out to the countryside of Bulgaria, and then you're like seeing these landscapes that are like, this kind of looks like where I grew up. Like, that has to be kind of a weird sensation, I would imagine.
It is a weird thing until you see like the Bulgarian tractor drive by and it looks like something from Russia. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
and you're like, oh yes, I am in fact in Bulgaria.
Yeah, don't film that part. And our production design and art team did a great job building a convincing Texas town in the middle of Bulgaria. So
did you guys build that town from scratch? That's what, or was it a set that's already there? Okay.
I believe they built that from scratch. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's very cool. Impressive. I also would love to walk around there. Sans Leatherface, you know.
I think it's changed quite a bit since then, since they shot some other movies there already.
Okay. How about the sunflower fields? Was that something that you guys just found? Did you create that?
No, the sunflower fields were out there in Bulgaria, and I think they originally were full of yellow sunflowers, and there was a storm that swept through, and I think hail destroyed the field, leaving it dead and brown, which I thought was kind of cool. I thought it was like kind of a fitting update to what we were doing. And it's sort of, in the first film, all the sunflowers are bright and new, and Leatherface is young, and now he's old. And so the sunflowers are old and dead. So I just thought it was a really interesting visual symbolism. And so we kept it in.
It was, and there are some very, very iconic shots using the sunflowers, which I was like, did you just find this? Did you build it? Because I feel like it's so, that those are going to be images that people like so closely associate with this movie that
Right.
it's just, yeah, it's like stuck in my brain forever.
Yeah, I mean, we used one of the shots in the trailer, just Leatherface standing up in the middle of and he's surrounded by these sunflowers and the mountains in the background, and that was just kind of something that we thought of when we were scouting. I think I had Mark Burnham out in the field, and he was just standing out there waiting, and I just looked, and I was like, oh, that's that wide shot with just his little head in the center. That's got to be in the movie.
That's such a fucking nightmare, by the way. Like, I love sunflowers, and sunflower fields are like such a safe space. And
Mhm.
there's no slasher that scares the shit out of me more than Leatherface. So you combined like my like ultimate safe space and my ultimate fear and just like blended them, and it's horrible. So thanks for that.
It was also a really fun challenge because that whole scene takes place in the daytime, bright sun, which is not what you normally associate with horror.
Hmm.
So it was a fun challenge to create horrific images just with high noon sun.
Yeah. I love that though. And it feels like Texas also, you know what I mean? Like I can feel like I'm like just feels like a hot, dusty day, and then you've got Leatherface running around doing his thing in the sunlight, and I'm terrified.
Exactly.
How did you what about like the effects? There's some brutal, brutal kills in this, and you went there. Like it was
Yeah.
there, and then you like extra went there, and I was like, holy shit, this is intense.
That was something that Fede Alvarez taught me.
Hmm.
The first day I was on set, I filmed one of the kills, and he saw the dailies, and he got back to me, and he called me, and he was like, hey Dave, great job on the kills, great job on the dailies, but I want you to reshoot it, and I just want you to go a little further, and I want you to use more blood. And whenever you think you have enough blood, I want you to go put a little more blood. And so that was kind of like my direction for the rest of the movie.
Hmm.
And he never had to make one of those calls again.
Right.
So once I understood the prescription, I went for it, and we had a lot of fun with the kills, using a lot of practical effects, blood squibs and blood tubes and blood cannons, and just really going at it.
Yeah, it's a blast because it's like you're like, okay, I think this thing is dead, maybe like this guy's dead, and then it just keeps going more, and you're like, oh my god, and then
Yeah,
it's like to a point where you're just like,
yeah,
no, but like in such a fun, like amazing, ridiculous way.
yeah. That's how you stand out with modern horror
Hmm.
audiences. I mean, we've seen everything. So you really, if you want to surprise people, you really got to push it further. You got to show a little bit more, and you
Yes.
got to get kind of creative with the way the kill happens. So that's what we try to
Hmm.
do.
And especially, I think when you watch a lot of horror, your like brain is trained to a certain point where it's like, okay, and that's where the cutaway is going to happen. And then when the cutaway doesn't happen, and then you're just seeing like more gore and like more violence happening, and the cutaway still isn't coming, it's just like, oh my God, like what is happening right now? This is fantastic.
I thought of when we were editing that sequence, those Family Guy jokes where the joke just keeps going longer, and it gets more uncomfortable, and then it's like awkward, and then it gets funny again. That's what we were trying to do, but for scary.
Yeah, that's a great analogy because that's exactly what it was like. You're like, oh, and then it's like, oh gosh, and it's like I'm very uncomfortable, and now I'm like, I'm giggling like a fucking maniac. Like, and now I just look like if someone walked in on me, they'd be like, this girl is disturbed. But it's like that
Right.
uncomfortable kind of laughter where it's like, you don't, what else? How
Mhm.
else can I react? Because it's like, what?
Yeah. I found myself laughing way too much at the gore in this movie, and so I really think I should get checked.
Okay, you and me both. We'll make appointments after this.
But if you're into gore, you'll have a lot of fun, I think, in watching this film.
100%, yes. So talk to me about casting. We have legacy characters. We've got new blood. You had to find a Leatherface. You had to find a Sally.
We did. We pulled together a great cast of a lot of young talent and a lot of seasoned talent. Put them together, and the rest is history. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise has discovered talents like Viggo Mortensen, Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey. So I really hope that in this young cast, we're gonna see some new stars emerging in the future.
I love that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Star Maker.
Exactly where you start.
Yeah, right? I mean, I wouldn't mind that being my starting place. That's amazing. That's so cool. What was the most fun for you on this? I imagine there's like so many elements of it. You got to collaborate with Rodo and Fede. You're like paying homage to a franchise that you love.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the most fun, I mean, I think it's those moments like, I'm a cinematographer by trade, and I really can't let go of the camera. I love to operate. I love to be in the action. I don't like sitting in the director's chair. I don't like
Mhm.
sitting at a monitor. I feel like I'm not doing anything. So I'm always on set. I'm always holding the camera, operating. And I think I had the most fun when I was just getting down and dirty, in some of those scenes, like in the crawl space sequence.
Mhm.
I was crawling into that set in the mud, with Sarah Yarkin, and we were just sitting in there and just kind of, just shooting it, just kind of like, it was like making my own, a short film back in high school again. Just felt like me and the actor, even though there's 200 people somewhere
Right.
outside of the periphery. But that's where I had the most fun.
I love that you were still able to have that element of it on a film of this scale and this size and kind of
Yeah.
go back to like your roots, you know what I mean? Like down in the
Yeah,
trenches.
that's my roots, is just making films in high school with my brother, and just kind of telling him what to do and holding the camera and just getting takes, and that's kind of how I treat filmmaking today. But you just have a lot more help and a lot more talent
Right.
to make it happen.
I love that. That's awesome. That is a beautiful ending point. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. Guys, check out Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix February 18th. All right. David, thank you so much. I'm excited for everyone to
Yeah,
check
thank
this
you.
out. I'm going to watch it like 10 more times just in this next week. So,
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, pump the numbers up for us.
yes. Okay. Good. It's all just me. I'm out here doing my part, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. All right. Yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
wow. That's awesome.
All right. Bye.